don't think it's served yet.
Or did I?
I don't know. Oh yeah, because the meeting's to start at 5 p.m. It's only 16:59.
1 minute.
Your hair looks good. Thanks so much.
Mochi, y'all.
Hey everybody, welcome to mental skills session number 3. We're working on some self-talk tonight. The title is P3 Thinking. How's everybody doing tonight? Doing okay? Did you have a good weekend? Drake cut his hair. Can we see that thing? Oh,
Wait, can we see
okay.
it?
Looking clean cut. Yeah, we can see you. What made you cut your hair?
Because it's closing to summer, so then I was gonna get too hot.
Yep, very practical. Okay, got it. Well, you look good. We got the big NCAA championship men's basketball game on tonight. So we got the Red Raiders versus the Virginia. What are they? Anybody know?
Virginia Cavaliers, I think.
The Cavaliers, that's right. Okay, so big game tonight. We're going to get a little work in before we get to celebrate and watch some basketball later this evening or whatever else you got going on. So the plan for tonight, guys, is we're going to run through some stuff on my PowerPoint, give you some information, some content, and then we're going to spend a little bit more time this evening working on the worksheet. So hopefully some of you guys had a chance to get that worksheet printed off. If not, just a piece of paper and a pencil or a pen will be just fine. And so we're going to spend a little bit more time working or letting you work on some stuff, and I'll help walk you through it. Okay. So any questions before we get started tonight, guys? You can always pop in if you do have any. But if not, we'll get started. All right, so P3 thinking is the topic tonight. We're going to be using the 3 Ps: purposeful, productive, and possibility. And we're really going to be hitting on the first 2, and in particular, the second one, productive thinking. That's going to be some of the work that we're going to put in this evening. It's kind of about when stuff happens that isn't ideal, how can you think productively in that moment? So for example, I was just speaking with Blake Brackett. He's one of our coaches that coaches our 2002 Orange team. They were in a National League, a couple National League games this past weekend. Their first game was at 8 a.m., right? Not really an ideal time, especially when you're on the road. You've got an early game. And then additionally, in his second game, they had a red card. So it's about how can you respond in those moments when things aren't exactly ideal. Are you going to go down the negative path of, oh, this sucks, I can't believe we have to play so early, I'm tired, I can't perform early in the morning? Or are you going to say, okay, this is good, it means that I'm fresh because I just woke up and I'm going to be able to perform my best because I feel great in the mornings? Or it's about finding just the way to help yourself perform your best by thinking in the best way you possibly can. Skip this one. You guys know I'm a big quotes guy. I told you there's going to be quotes every session, so get ready. Here they are. The first one is, the difference between an ordinary player and a champion is in the way they think. Next one, you're going to make mistakes in life. It's what you do after those mistakes that counts. That's from Brandy Chastain. She just got honored at the USA women's national team game against Belgium last night, along with the rest of the 1999 winners. One of those was also Mia Hamm. She says, and I love this quote, she says, you have to step on the field thinking, I'm going to make an impact today, as opposed to thinking, Mia, whatever you do, please don't give the ball away. So research actually shows us that successful athletes think differently from less successful athletes. So I'm going to get some interaction from you guys early on here. I'll give you kind of the scenario. So this research experiment was with tennis players. And what they did was after every point or every set, I can't remember, it was every so often during the tennis match, they'd have these tennis players, these collegiate tennis players would come over and just spend like 15 seconds explaining to the researchers what they were thinking about during the previous point. And what they found was that the players who ended up winning their matches were thinking about very different things from the players who were not winning their matches. So I'll open it up to you guys before I give you the answer. What kind of stuff do you think that the players who ended up winning their matches were thinking about? Or you can answer, what kind of stuff do you think that the players who weren't winning their matches were thinking about? Or what would the differences be there if you can think of any? Any thoughts out there? What do you think that the guys that were, or the guys or the gals that were winning their tennis matches, what kinds of things might they have been thinking about that would have helped them win their matches?
They were probably thinking that like they were gonna win the game, they were gonna score all the points, they were gonna like let them score or like get the ball or like give the ball up. Or like not that.
Okay, sure. So you're on the right track, Isaac. They were thinking about positive things. They were staying optimistic. Definitely. They weren't getting down on themselves and thinking that they were going to lose or that things weren't going well. So they were going to lose the points. That's absolutely right. Can you think of any more specific things? I don't know how well you guys know tennis, but what kinds of things might they have been thinking about while playing their tennis match?
Maybe their technique.
Okay, sure. Say more about that. What might they have been thinking about in terms of their technique?
How to hit the ball and like hit it hard or soft or.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So they were thinking about the way that they wanted to hit the ball. So they weren't just, letting whatever happened. They were thinking, okay, I need to hit it harder or I need to hit it softer and thinking about the proper technique to use. Absolutely. Okay, let's flip it. What do you think that the players who didn't end up winning their matches, what kinds of things were they thinking more about? Anything?
Maybe like I can't lose this game, or like I'm not gonna win any of the money, or like, yeah.
All right, so these were college athletes, so they weren't. There wasn't any money on the line, but definitely, yeah, they were thinking about like, okay, this isn't going well. It feels like I'm gonna lose. Not feeling confident. Things like that. So yeah, definitely, you're right on with that.
Maybe like they thought like the wind blew in the wrong direction and that's why.
Sure. So they were thinking about things like the environment and it not being ideal for them. Like they didn't serve well into the wind and they were just mad because the wind was blowing in their face while they were serving, things along those lines. Okay. So good contributions, guys. I'm going to kind of fill you in on the results. What they found predominantly was that the players who were winning their matches were thinking about things that they could control. If we were going to generalize it, things that were under their control. So they were thinking about things like, okay, my opponent is a little bit slow, so I'm going to work him side to side and get an advantage that way. Or I know that my opponent's backhand is not very strong, so I'm going to keep hitting his backhand. The players who weren't winning, they were thinking about things that were outside of their control, like perhaps they had a call go against them where they felt like it was in, but the referee called it out, and they were thinking about how unfair that was. So they were thinking about things that were outside of their control, or things that maybe happened previously that were no longer relevant. So when we talk about thinking about thinking in ways that are going to help you. You want to try to think about things that you have control over, that are focused on the present. And so you're not getting stuck in things that happened in the past or things that you don't have any control over. Okay, so when we look at our 3 Ps again, purposeful, productive, and possibility, the opposite of that, opposite of purposeful would be random. So we want to be purposeful with our thinking instead of just random. I'll talk more about that in a second. We want to be productive with our thinking instead of just reactive. And we want to think about things with possibilities, optimistic possibilities about the way things might turn out as opposed to being restrictive. So this is just another way to kind of put what we're talking about into context to show you the opposite of what we're talking about. So let's dive right into purposeful thinking. Purposeful thinking is about thinking about the right things on purpose. Okay, so I'll give you a quick example of kind of what this means. I want everybody to not think about a white bear. Don't think about a white bear. How many people were able to successfully not think about a white bear?
Me.
How were you able to not think about a white bear?
Me.
I thought of a brown bear.
Nice. I like that strategy.
I thought of a kitty cat.
Okay, so you thought of a different animal completely.
Yep.
Nice. That's a great strategy. So if you can see the quote here, it says, keep your mind off the things you don't want by keeping it on the things you do want. So a lot of times we go into competition, and this kind of reminds me of Mia Hamm's quote where she says, you got to think, go out there and make an impact today, as opposed to thinking, don't give the ball away. So there's lots of times we can think generally about our performance, about the things that we do want to have happen, as opposed to the things that we don't want to have happen. So maybe your coach even has said to you in the past, like, hey, don't give the ball away, right? But what he should be saying, or she should be saying to help you is, hey, connect your passes. So you want to be thinking about the things that you do want to have happen, as opposed to the things that you don't want to have happen, because they're more likely to occur because you're building an image of those things happening in your mind. Okay, so that's kind of a precursor for the first P, purposeful thinking. Can you guys think of a situation in a game, maybe a specific situation in a game where you've thought about what you didn't want to have happen as opposed to what you did want to have happen?
I can't think of one in a game, but I can think of one in a practice.
Okay, sure. Go ahead and share that.
So one time I was taking corner kick in practice, and I said to myself before I hit it, I was like, don't hit it behind the net. Don't hit it behind the net. And instead of saying like, let's put this ball on Reed's head.
Yep. So corner kicks are a good one. You're on display, basically. You don't want to kick it out of bounds. Absolutely. It's embarrassing. It's like everybody gets up, the center backs get up, everybody's waiting for you to deliver the ball. And then when you kick it out, it's really kind of embarrassing. So it's common to want to think, don't kick it out. But yeah, like you said, Camden, you're a lot more likely to hit it where you want if you're thinking about hitting it to either a certain player or a certain spot on the field. Whatever your objective is in that moment, you definitely want to be thinking about, okay, hit it to the penalty spot or hit it to so-and-so's head. So yeah, good example. Other thoughts? Okay, well, we could probably extrapolate and think about free kicks, right? Don't kick it over, or a penalty kick, like don't shoot it at the goalie. Those aren't the things you want to be thinking in those moments. You want to be thinking about the things that you do want to have happen. Okay, and then our next P that we're really going to dive into, and then we're going to hit the worksheet here because we're already 15 minutes into our session, and I want to give you some time on that. Our next P is productive thinking. This is about responding instead of simply reacting. And I have a clip here, but I'm gonna skip the clip to save time. There was a kind of a famous U.S. Open for all the golf fans out there. This guy named Tom Watson, he was chasing Jack Nicklaus on the final day on the back nine. There was about 6 or 7 holes left, and he was a couple strokes behind Jack Nicklaus, and he had an 18-inch putt. And he missed his 18-inch putt. And that's like a tap-in for anybody, especially for a professional. You're expecting to make those putts. And he actually went on to birdie his next, I think, 5 out of 6 holes and ended up winning, even after missing such an easy putt. And the editor of Golf Digest asked him after the match, he said, Tom, what were you thinking after you missed such an easy putt? How were you able to keep going and then do so well to win? And he said, well, I just thought to myself, that putt just shows that even great putters miss the occasional easy one. So it was a great way to respond to something that happened that was very negative. Obviously, nobody wants to miss that putt, but he was able to say to himself, well, that just shows that even great putters miss the occasional easy one, and it allowed him to be ready to take his next putt. So I want to open it up back to you guys again and see if we can get some thoughts. What are moments in games, maybe where something bad happens that you're likely to think like, oh gosh, I really messed up on that one? Or, sometimes we even think as athletes, like, oh, I'm no good, I can't do this. What are those moments for you guys? Anybody want to pop in? When are you likely to get negative, or like what are times in games or practices that you get down on yourself?
When I missed the penalty kick.
Sure, absolutely. That's a big moment. That's a big moment to miss a penalty kick. But how could you? So Drake, I'll challenge you then to how could you use Tom Watson's thinking where he said, even great putters miss the occasional easy one. How might you use that for yourself in a soccer world?
Just try to score a goal, but not a penalty kick.
Okay, sure, but think about all the professional athletes that have missed penalties. Like, I've seen Messi miss penalties. I've seen Cristiano Ronaldo miss penalties. So what might you think in that moment after you, an aspiring, professional athlete, but still a young kid, what might you think in that moment to help kind of keep your confidence up?
Even great players make the occasional easy one, miss occasionally.
Exactly, right? So there's an easy transference there. If you think to yourself, well, even the all-time greats have missed penalty kicks. I'm just a human being just like them. It can help maybe help you get over it a little bit quicker and be ready to take the next one. But I like where your thoughts at as well of just, hey, you know what? I'm going to score a goal. I missed my penalty, but I'm going to get on the ball and I'm going to rip a shot. I'm going to score a goal. Anyways, that's a great thought too. So just getting some ideas rolling there. Let's pop into our worksheet because we've only got about 12 minutes left. I want you guys to put some work in here. We probably won't get through everything, but I'll kind of set you on your way here. Okay, so you might have a worksheet. You might just have some paper. You can kind of skim through the first page. This is kind of the stuff that we just went over. So you don't need to look at it too closely. There's some tips there on how to become a better P3 thinker. Look that over on your own time. And we're going to pop right into the first exercise. So the first exercise says, think carefully and reflectively about thoughts and feelings that you associate with good performances. What thoughts and feelings prepare and enable you to perform well while also remaining focused and confident in competition. So go ahead and write down some personal thoughts and feelings that enable you to perform well and remain focused and confident. Some examples might be feeling energized or feeling ready or feeling happy. Could be feeling competitive, or it even could be feeling a little bit intense. Whatever you remember about your best performances recently, try to think about how you were feeling and what thoughts you had during those really good performances. Okay, and then when you're ready, move on to number 2. It says, now think carefully and reflectively about thoughts and feelings you associate with poor performances. What thoughts and feelings do you have when you are performing poorly or feeling less focused and confident in competition? So think about when you haven't performed really well, how were you feeling or what were you thinking about during those performances? You may have been feeling tired or thinking about maybe stuff that wasn't relevant to what you were doing. You're thinking about school or family or other stuff that was going on. See if you can remember your thoughts and feelings from when you haven't played very well. Okay, I'll give you about 30 more seconds to finish exercises 1 and 2. Feel free to just pop on if you have any questions at any time. Don't be shy. Or I should say, be assertive. Okay, so we're going to move on here. For exercise 3, it says identify any situations or things that happen to you in sport that trigger you to have self-defeating thoughts or feelings. Some examples could be criticism from coaches, making a mistake, the officials making a bad call, maybe a teammate saying something negative or doing something that you're not happy about. Be very specific in describing the exact thing that triggers you to think reactively or to feel badly. So let's just start with 1. See if you can think of one specific thing that causes you to have self-defeating thoughts or feelings. And go ahead and write that down. And then once you've identified the thing, so maybe it's like when a coach yells at me or after I miss a shot or whatever the thing is, in the next column where it says what I think, write down specifically, what do you think in that moment? Do you think like, you know, I'm no good, I can't do this? Do you think like I'm really angry or I hate so-and-so? What do you actually think, if you can remember, in those moments when that thing happens? Okay, so you might think it's when you get yelled at by your coach. If you get yelled at by your coach, you might think he doesn't think I'm any good. I don't think I'm any good. I can't do this. And then next, right, how does it make you feel, or how does it hurt your performance? So if that was your example, it might make you feel bad, and it might hurt your performance because then you don't feel as confident and you're not as willing to take risks. But whatever it is for you, how does it make you feel, or how does it hurt your performance? Okay, I'll give you a few more seconds to do that. Just a reminder, if you don't have yourself muted, go ahead and mute yourself unless you have a question or something to contribute, because I'm hearing some background noise. Okay, so let's move on. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to take that same specific thing, whatever you identified above. You can either write it down or maybe just a shorthand version, or just say like see above, because it's going to be the same thing. So if it's getting yelled at by a coach or missing a goal, whatever you identified, it's going to be that same thing. But now I want you to think, or I want you to identify a replacement thought, how you can think better, but be specific with the thought. What are you going to actually think in that moment? So I'll give you an example using the coach yelling at me example. You know, I really don't like when a coach used to yell at me. And even though I am a coach, I still yell at players sometimes. I don't think it's very helpful. But anyways, I might think, oh, my coach doesn't think I'm any good. I don't think I'm any good. So how can I think better in that moment? If a coach yells at me, I might decide, you know what, in the future, what I'm going to think is, my coach just wants me to play better, or my coach is just trying to help me, might be one example. Or I might think, you know what, even great players get yelled at by their coaches on occasion, or something that's going to help me in that moment to stay in the present and not get caught up in my emotion of how it makes me feel. I'm gonna come up with a specific thought that's gonna help me in that moment. So I'll let you guys work here and think about it, and then write down how this is gonna enhance my performance and help me to feel, or says how this will enhance my feelings and performance.
What if our thing was we're down by 10 goals with a minute left, and I was angry, but I don't. What if you don't really believe you could come back when you're down by 10 goals with only a minute left?
Okay, sure. It might not be realistic to come back by 10 goals, but what are you trying to accomplish on the field? I mean, you can still play your best and work your hardest and try to score one goal. I mean, you can only score one goal at a time. So
Yes.
maybe your objective is no longer to win the game. I think that's unrealistic, but your objective might be to win, you know, the last minute. Or is there some way you can reframe what's happening that can help you to have an objective that's reachable? That would be my thoughts on that situation.
Okay.
Okay, so we've got 2 minutes left. I'm wondering if anybody would be willing to share what they came up with and just walk us through briefly what the thing is, how it typically makes you feel or what it usually makes you think, and then what you're going to replace that thought with in the future.
Mine was we're down by 10 goals with a minute left, and then my second was that I said I'm angry, and then what happens is I try to dribble too much, so I said we can still score the next goal, and then I thought we could at least get one goal, and then we can pass more.
Okay, sure. So in the past, you've had experiences, Drake, where you've been down by a lot of goals late and you're mad and you just want to do it all yourself. You want to be the guy that's just going to dribble And what usually happens in those moments? Are you successful?
No.
Okay, so you're recognizing that's maybe not helping you, or it has not helped you in the past. So you're going to think next time, if you're down by a lot of goals late, you're going to think, okay, we can get the next one. It's going to be a team job. So you're going to look to pass more and just do it as a team. Okay, I like that. Anybody else want to share? I think we got time for one or two more.
Mine was missing a pen. And so, like, for the R3 thinking, I said, like, oh my gosh, I'm so bad. And, like, how did I miss that? And then I don't perform as well as I should because I'm frustrated that I missed the penalty. And then the P3 thinking is that even though I missed, we're still in this game and I'm going to score maybe at another time. And then I will be more confident and I'll play better.
Okay, sure. Nice. So now you're prepared, Camden, if you do take a penalty kick, whether it's, well, it sounded specifically to being in a game, but yeah, if you take a penalty kick in a game and you don't make it, now, we hope that doesn't happen, but if that does happen now, because you put this work in to think about it ahead of time, you're going to be prepared with those thoughts to think to yourself, okay, we're still in this game. I can score a goal a different way, or we can score goals different ways. It's going to be okay. So that's good. Thanks for sharing.
And don't worry, I won't miss a pen.
I like the confidence. Okay, guys. Well, we're at 5:30, so I'm going to end the meeting. What I'd like you to do is spend some time on your own. I had you come up with one example. There's room for 4. So however vigorous you're feeling, if you've got some time this evening, if you can come up with a couple more or 3 more, if you've got the time, I think that would be valuable just to help prepare yourself to think better in those situations that are likely to lead to self-defeating thoughts. Are there any questions or last comments before we end the session for the evening? All right, boys. Well, thanks a million for hopping on and being with us this evening. Really appreciate it. We'll see you guys next time.
Bye.
Bye, Coach.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you.
Bye.
See you guys.
See you.
Bye.